Welcome to RCPylon.TV. I'm Don Stigall, and this is the first video in what I hope will be a series of videos with RC Pylon racing pilots. Today I have Dean Stone with me. He's an NMPRA class racer. He is a very accomplished pilot, and he goes to a lot of races, including the Nationals in Muncie. And we're going to talk about how he got started in RC, how he progressed to Pylon, and where he plans to go in the future. So, Dean, how did you get started flying RC?
I started when I was 18 years old, seen a gentleman flying a model in his front yard and stopped and asked a million questions. He let me fly the plane with him talking to me, and I was able to fly 2 tanks of fuel through it. And when I left, he gave me a J3 Goldberg Cub, and I bought an Attack 4 Futaba radio and a KMB 61 two-stroke and taught myself to fly it. Landing was an adventure.
A pilot for Plane and Pilot magazine, Bud Davison, teaches in a pits, and he had seen kids flying airplanes, and he thought to himself, how hard can it be since I can fly a full-scale airplane? In the article, he said it turned out to be one of the biggest challenges of his life because he didn't have that inside the cockpit view when he's flying RC. How long do you think it took you to get that view when you could think inside the cockpit and the orientation?
Oh, I tore that airplane up probably a month. I tore it up many times and had to rebuild it. It took me about a month to be able to land it and not break props and tear it up. And then I went straight to a Chaos 40 for my second airplane.
That's a tricycle gear airplane? Or?
Yes, it was. Low wing, tricycle gear with a OS 40 on it.
And then you built that airplane too?
I did. I built all my airplanes. I built lots of airplanes for people.
Well, that's cool. So when you were learning, what maneuvers did you start out with?
Just flying a basic pattern, pick a target on the horizon and line up with it to try to teach myself to line up on the runway. And then I'd progressively get lower and lower and lower, trying to build up the courage to tear it up again. And I did, more than once.
Did you do things like figure eights and stuff to learn right hand versus the left hand turns and that kind of stuff?
Yes, I did. And I would land from both directions. You know, I'd go out, land from the right, turn around, go back up, land from the left. You know, a lot of people get confused when the plane turns around and flies at them because everything's backwards. The easiest way for me to learn it was to turn and look over my shoulder.
Oh.
You know, look behind me, box in front of me, and everything was the same.
Right-hand turns are still a challenge for me. They weren't back in the 2000s when I first started flying again because I was flying a simulator a lot. And I went out with my little handyman twins and just started doing all kinds of maneuvers. And I bonked it many times, even wound up breaking the carbon fiber wing spar in it, and I've got to fix it. But you're right, learning those different maneuvers helps you a lot. So you built more airplanes, I assume, after the chaos?
Yeah, I ended up building models to sell for people in the club. I built HOTS. I built many of the 4-stars. I built a bunch of the Goldberg Cubs and the 300s, the Ultimate Bikes from Goldberg. I built J3 kits and from SIG, the Smith Mini plane. I built a lot of models for people back in the 80s, 90s. And then I took a break wife, children from 2000 to 2011. And when I started back flying, it was nothing but pylon.
How did you get started in pylon racing?
Somebody told me I couldn't do it.
In what year?
1995.
And you've been flying for about how long?
10 years.
So you were an accomplished sport pilot.
Yeah, if you want to put it that way, yeah. I didn't tear them up as bad as I used to.
So when you started flying pylon, what class of airplane did you start with?
I started flying in the NMPRA organization, flying quickies in the novice class with a jet super sport.
That was considered novice then?
Yes, you had to have three breakout times of 1 minute and 27 seconds to advance to the advanced class. Then you had to have 3 times of 1 minute and 15 seconds to advance to the expert class. And then you were stuck in the rut.
So they started beginners on jet engines.
Yes, you could fly jets. You could fly Weber 40s with tune pipes, but the jet was the dominant engine.
I assume that was faster than our 424
Yes.
Quickie 500s by a fair amount.
Yes, we were doing 105s, minute 5, minute 4 seconds.
On the short course?
On short course.
When you started flying Quickie, what kind of planes were you flying?
My first airplane was a Dodger from Direct Connection, I think is who kitted it. And then Jim Katz gave me an airfoil and told me to design my own airplane. If I wanted to race, I needed to build my own model. So the second model I flew in Quickie was my own design, and I flew it until I quit. And I still fly it now until I started flying the Quick V record.
What do you think of the Quick V?
It's a very good kit. It's straight, it's fast, it's easy to assemble, and they'll have no problems with it. There's nothing about the kit that you need to alter or change.
Well, one of the deficiencies in the Viper 500 was that the tail had external control horns, and also lining up the tail wasn't easy. How hard is it to get the tail lined up on this airplane?
If you read the book and follow his instruction, you cannot mess it up. It snaps into place.
So this plane by Jim Allen's a really nice plane?
Yes, it is. It's a very good plane for someone to start with. It's a good plane for someone to fly that's an accomplished pilot.
So even if they're not racing, flying a Quick V6 at the club would be a nice, fast airplane?
Yes, yes.
Well, that's cool. And with the 424, of course we have to run a couple of specific engines, but on the website it says it's for 40 to 55 engines. So a pilot could easily start out sport flying with a 46 engine, like an OS 46 AX2 or something.
Yes. I have flown one race with 424 in Georgia with my grandson calling for me with an Evolution 46, and we turned a 1:14.89 for the fast time of the contest, which
with a Quick V6.
With a Quick V6.
Well, that's cool.
Gary Smith turned a 101 at the Nationals in 426 with a Quick V6. It's as fast as any composite aircraft you buy. It comes down to the man in the boots and the thumbs.
So for $200 for the ARF plus the associated equipment, a sport pilot could get started flying Quickie and practice at their club.
Yes, and they won't have a bad experience with it. The model has no bad habits.
Now, in terms of your club experience, you said you built a lot of airplanes for people. Did you help other people learn to fly?
I have. I taught a lot of people in the past how to fly. I test flew a lot of new aircraft because everybody was scared to fly them. So I would tell them no warranties expressed or applied, and we would fly their new model.
So you got to fly a lot of airplanes.
A lot of different models.
Well, that's good. And I'm sure that helps when you switch from one plane to another.
It does. I love to fly the Pylon Racers. I love to fly gliders. One extreme to the other. And I like to fly something big, slow, just shoot and touch and goes. Just something to relax and have fun.
Well, that's what RC is all about, is having fun, and it's a social hobby, and it's more fun to do with other people, but you can do it by yourself.
Yes.
In a lot of cases.
Yes.
There are some planes you don't want to try to fly by yourself. Now, can a person fly a quick V6 without having to have a helper launch it, or with a 424?
If they have the throttle hooked up, not an open Venturi style, just if they have the throttle working, yes, they can fly this at a field with I would recommend a smaller motor just till they get used to the speed.
Now, in terms of balance on this airplane, do you think a 25 could be used on it, or would you have to add a whole lot of weight up front?
You would have to add nose weight with a 25.
Because they only weigh about 12 ounces, and the other engines weigh 16 to 17 ounces.
The battery is in the nose on my model. I have a 4-ounce tank in it. It come up underweight, and it flies like it's on rails.
Well, I think I'm going to have to get one of these. I've heard so many positive comments about them. And even though I'll build my own, something that's easy to assemble that I can't mess up would suit me just fine.
That's why I have built 2 of these. I also build my own, and I can purchase this and build it as cheap and faster than me scratch building my own model.
That's impressive.
I'm tired of building and coughing up sanding dust, so you can assemble this airplane in a weekend.
So Jim Allen did a really good job on the design, and Great Plains has done a great job with the production of the airplane.
Yes. If you follow his instruction, it will fly.
And I've seen the Proudbird manual, but I haven't read this manual. It's probably a pretty detailed manual, isn't it?
It is. And it's step by step.
So if somebody's interested in the plane, just reading the manual will give them a good idea.
Yes.
About what it's going to take to get it together.
Yes. Follow the manual.
I believe in reading manuals. That's one of the things that I taught my son when he was young. And now when I don't read the manual, he gives me a hard time. But so after you started flying Quickie, did you move up to a faster class? There was AMA 428 probably at that time.
I flew the NMPRA class with the jet, and you flew it on Saturday, and then Saturday afternoon you took the engine off, put a 428 motor on it, and you flew the same airplane on Sunday. And it was 20 mile an hour faster.
So it was a step in between the NMPRA and the faster Q40 airplanes.
Yes.
But still not as fast as Q40.
Not as fast as Q40.
Now, I know you really like Q40.
Yes, I do.
Is it your favorite racing class now?
Yes, it is.
Is it because the airplanes look cool, or because of the 200 mile per hour plus thrill?
Yes. They fly. They fly so well. If they're balanced and trimmed, they are easier to fly than the Quickies. I mean,
they can also get out of sight a lot quicker.
Yes.
I've experienced that.
They fly very well.
Okay, we switched out to a different plane. What kind of plane is this?
This is a sweet one manufactured by Advanced Pylon Products. Gary Freeman Sr. builds this airplane.
That's a nice looking airplane. It's a P-51 based airplane, or
Yes.
actually a Miss Ashley type of airplane.
Yes.
And I assume this is an all molded composite airplane.
That's correct. It is.
And you have vinyl trim on it in
Yes.
places.
The orange is paint. Everything else on the model is vinyl.
Where'd you get the vinyl from?
Kirby Graphics.
Cool. So he's already got templates for this airplane then.
Yes.
And I know there's a 2-suite. What's the difference between this airplane and the 2-suite?
2-suite is the second generation of the Suite 1. Has a little less dihedral. The wingtips are a little more rounded. Other than that, it's the same aircraft. The belly pan has a little different shape, but the fuselage will fit in the same molds. It's the same aircraft.
Okay, cool. And what kind of engine are you running in this?
This is an engine built by Aero Precision Aero engines, the Nelson from Mike Langlois.
Now, these engines don't even have a carburetor, do they?
No, it's an open Venturi.
So you just use a fuel shutoff, so all your landings are dead stick.
Yes.
How does this airplane land? I mean, is it stable?
Yes.
Landing without power?
It's a Mustang. You keep the speed up.
Okay.
Stay off the rudder, and it
Okay.
lands fine.
That's cool. And I know most of the Q40 stuff is done on paved runways. Can these airplanes be flown on a grass field if it's a smooth Bermuda type of grass, or do you really need a paved runway?
I would assume so. I would prefer pavement just to keep the dirt and the trash out of the Venturis.
Because it's so large.
Yes.
Yeah, it looked like it's a large Venturi. So, Dean, how fast do the Q40s go?
According to the weather and the prop and how you set the engine, anywhere from 185 miles an hour to 200, 204. I've seen that on radar gun.
Do you use a radar gun when you're practicing?
Sometimes. I use it more for props.
Determining what prop works best on what engine, on what day,
Yes.
on what airplane.
Yes.
In terms of skill, how long do you think a pilot needs to fly in quickie before they move up to Q40?
That's not a fair question because everybody has different skill set. There are pilots that could, if they're an accomplished pilot, sport pilot, there are some pilots that could start with this.
They fly that.
They fly that well. There are some pilots that fly quickie and are comfortable in quickie. They may move up. They may not be comfortable with the speed. Some pilots won't move up. They're happy where they are. The aircraft fly excellent. They're solid, stable. Note that they don't seem to have bad habits. It's a composite ARF. They're very easy to assemble. They're very easy to put the graphics on. You can build this airplane in a weekend.
So it looks like the stabilizer is actually separate from the fuselage.
It is.
Does it plug in?
It does. The stabs come off the model. It has an aluminum joiner for the elevator with 2 screws that hold the stabs together. The tape seals the gaps. They don't move. They stay right where you put them.
So it's a go where you point it kind of plane.
Absolutely.
And I assume it's a real thrill flying them on the 3-pole course.
Absolutely, especially with 3 other pilots. It's a blast.
I fly 2-pole and Club 40 a lot, and I've flown the 3-pole course. And the thing I like about the 3-pole course is you can judge your position relative to other pilots, especially around number 2 and number 3. Number 1's a little harder to get used to.
Word of advice, don't stay below him. Behind and below him is a bad place to be.
Bad air?
Yes. It doesn't matter what plane you fly. If you get into that bad air, you're likely to stuff it.
I stuffed a 428 plane at 2002 Nats because I came around number 3 and I hit dirty air and the plane was basically uncontrollable. But I assume with 200-mile-an-hour airplanes, these are generating a lot of dirty air.
They do, but they're such fun to fly. And the rules now are generic, as in a total beginner who knows nothing can buy every piece of equipment that I have and have an aircraft that will be the same speed.
And they can be competitive right out of the gate if they get their plane put together properly. And
if they can fly the course. It's all about real estate. Tighter is better.
And staying away from other airplanes.
True.
And the poles.
If you're in front, you don't have to worry.
I see a lot of Futaba stuff, like the FAST logo and the Team Futaba. And I guess with it saying Team Futaba, you're a member of Team Futaba?
I am. I was asked to join the team in 2015. Glad to be here. Best radio made.
These airplanes are produced in molds using fiberglass and wood and epoxy, and they have carbon fiber in them. And there's usually carbon fiber in the nose area to make it stiff, and the wings have carbon fiber spars in them. Have you ever had any trouble with the FAST receivers and the carbon fiber?
No, I have not.
That's good to know, because a lot of people ask that question, and the different brands have different characteristics, and not having interference, especially at 200 miles an hour, is kind of important.
It is. With this radio system, with the FAST system, you turn the transmitter on, you turn the switch on, and it links immediately. There's no hesitation. It's that quick, and it doesn't go away.
Tell me about your Futaba radio.
This is the new 16SC. I've only had it a couple of months. It has the same programming as the 18 MZ, and I really like it. It's touchscreen. It's easier for me to program than the 14SG that I had in the past.
I saw the screen and being able to see the curves of the exponential and the dual rates and stuff looked really cool to me.
Yeah, the radio is much smarter than I am. It will take me a while to learn everything I need to know, but I'm trying. But
when you're setting up an airplane, you tuned my Club 40 airplane at the 2016 Nats, and I think that was a difference in me flying somewhat decent in the gold class and the silver plane that I had set up myself. So I know you're really good at trimming airplanes. How long does it take you from the time you start flying an airplane until you have it trimmed out and feeling good to you?
Different aircraft, you may get it first, second flight. Other aircraft may take you a little longer. They're man-made, painted in the mold. Sometimes they have more paint on the tail than the first one you built. Your balance is off, so now you can't set everything in the same place every time.
So you've got to be used to programming a transmitter or making adjustments.
The aircraft will tell you what it wants. Every time you fly it, the airplane will tell you what it needs. You have to learn to interpret what you're looking at.
Okay.
That's the biggest trick. Once you understand what the aircraft is doing in the air, then you can trim it. You don't just push buttons to push buttons.
So, Dean, you said that anybody can buy these airplanes and the engines. Every engine has things you have to learn about it, and with these engines turning well into the 20,000 RPM range, maybe even higher in the air, I don't know.
28, 29, 5.
These airplanes are readily available. They're effectively composite ARFs, and you can buy all the components you have for this airplane right off the shelf.
Yes.
But putting it together and actually getting a flyable airplane, 200 miles an hour is a lot different than that J3 you started with.
Yes.
So what does a person need to do once they move to Q40 or even 426 Quickie in terms of getting help and learning the 3-pole course?
Don't be afraid to approach one of the premier pilots in our class. Every guy that's racing will help. You have a question, go ask the guy that's winning. Go ask the guy that's always fast. He won't keep secrets. He wants you to succeed as much as you do. Somebody help him. Somebody help me. I didn't get here by myself. People helped me, taught me what I needed to learn.
Things like about how to set up the radio, how to trim the airplane.
How to trim the plane, how to balance the model, how to set your transmitters like you want it, what you're looking for to feel in the air, how to call, that's important. Rick Landers taught me how to call. Ray Brown taught me how to call. Jim Katz got me started in this. Dennis O'Brien got me started in this. Don't be afraid to approach the guys. They're not untouchable. If you have a question, they will help you.
The NMPRA forum seems to have a lot of information that one needs when they're working with these airplanes. Like I've seen a thread on the timing on the Nelson engines and using timing wheels. Everybody's got their own techniques that they use.
Yes.
And
for the most part, if you run the engine like the manufacturer sends it to you, it will run. And it will run very well. When you start changing for weather conditions, you step out on a limb. If you know what you're doing, you can improve yourself. If you don't know what you're doing, you help the engine manufacturer's pocket.
And the plane manufacturers.
Maybe.
Well, then we have an EF1 plane in front of us. And for a lot of the people who have gone electric, EF1 seems like it would be a really fun class. I haven't actually raced in an EF1 race yet. I've worked on some airplanes and I've bench run motors and I've used the EF1 propulsion systems in some other sport aircraft. How fast do these EF1 planes go?
115 mile an hour, 120 mile an hour.
Averaging probably 100 miles an hour on the course by the time you actually fly the distance or so?
I think so. I haven't really paid that much attention. They're a lot of fun to fly. They crank every time, and you never missed a needle.
But you got to maintain batteries.
Well, yeah, but they crank every time.
For people who want to start racing, but quickies just don't suit them. Of course, we have an entry-level class, Club 40, that's below 424, and it's not an NMPRA class, but it is raced at the Nats. But these airplanes look nice. The rules for these planes make them have to be more scale than the Q40 airplanes. So sport flyers could probably get involved in EF1 without having to learn as much as they have to learn for Q40, for instance.
Yes, it's not as expensive. The speeds aren't as great. The aircraft have a lot of torque with the prop, and you have to learn to set the aircraft up to fly around the torque. But they fly great, and you can sport fly them. You don't have to race it. You could fly it on Sunday at the club field and not scare everybody.
Can you fly these off of a grass field, or do you
Yes.
need to take the wheel pants off to do that?
It's according to how low cut groomed the grass is.
But a relatively smooth grass runway.
You can
At
fly
a
this
typical
off.
club,
Yes.
you can fly these. Unlike the Q40s and the quickies, where you have to have a 3-pole course that is pretty big and big setbacks for the course workers. The course for EF1 doesn't have to be as big. So with the ARFs available for EF1, some people still prefer to build, but a lot of the ARFs can be competitive, like the Proud Bird and some of the other planes. Are these planes easier to get in the air than the other airplanes, or about the same amount of work?
As far as building, they're not. It's typical monocoque. You are not allowed to have a composite frame for EF1. They're built up or balsa foam core wings. They have to be monocoated. They have to have a 1/16 trailing edge. They have to be flat stock on the tail. You have to have a approved EF1 engine, and your battery cannot weigh more than 335 grams.
And the ESCs, do you run a 60 or 75 amp ESC?
Anywhere from 60 to 100 is what I've seen guys run.
The motors in these airplanes turned in that 8x8 prop generate a lot of left turning tendency, and it pulls the plane to the left when you're turning. How do you compensate for that?
On this particular aircraft, I have right rudder mixed with elevator in the turns.
Okay.
And I kept adding right rudder until the airplane would come through the turn and not drop the nose.
But if you're just sport flying, you don't have to worry about
No, you don't.
that kind of thing.
You're not going to sport fly with the 8.8 prop. You're going to put a lighter load prop on it. You can run a smaller battery. a 3-cell instead of a 4-cell battery, and you won't have the torque factor that you do now.
Well, even though these don't go 200 miles an hour, the course is shorter, and the times I've seen are close to the 426 times on the short course.
Yeah, the national record is 108, I believe. And
so you still turn 10 laps in just over a minute.
Yes, and it's a lot of fun. You can hear everybody talking and all the interaction between the pilots and the callers. You can hear everything, and people play mind games. It's a lot of fun.
So, thanks for coming in, Dean. Really appreciate you coming by and being the first person to do this. It's been an experience. It's been a good experience. And hoping that I can get some more pilots to do some interviews and show their planes and talk about their equipment and the techniques that they use. So, thanks for coming, and
you're welcome.
Really
sir.
Appreciate you coming by. And do you have any comments you want to make?
If you want to race, try it. It's not hard. There is a ton of information and people who are willing to help. Beats drinking.
I get that. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe to RCPylon.TV. Stay tuned for more videos of airplanes and people, and we'll see you at the races.